will be given here, and you will notice that basically changes have occurred for the two last parts. Well, everybody knows that the CAE Speaking Exam lasts about 15 minutes only, but for this reason, many students believe this is quite difficult, and it becomes really stressful for most of them, principally because it's an advanced level. But you don't need to worry, because you can get some tips here that can help you get more confident. There are some tricks, some tips, some points that you've got to pay attention to. A simple trick that will make you seem more confident is the phrase that there is a crime. It's important to know that it's not it's not good at all to be silent for such a long time during the speaking exam. There are some tips, some ideas that you can use while you are speaking so that you do not keep silent. You shouldn't worry about how good or bad your partner is. Many candidates believe that if the partner they have is not talkative enough or is not good enough for them, they believe they will be penalized, but that's not true. There are some common mistakes that CAE students make, and we will be talking about this here throughout the presentation of this PowerPoint. We will be also talking about how the CAE exam has changed, and there are also 3 magic words that you can use while you were doing part 2 of the speaking exam. Okay, so what does the CAE speaking test look like? Let's have a look at this. Let's see. You know that you will join another student for the speaking test, and there will be 2 examiners watching you, but only one of those examiners will talk. The other one will be behind them taking notes. The speaking exam has 4 sections, and there are some parts where you should talk to the examiner, and there are some parts where you have to talk alone, and parts where you have to talk to the other candidate, to the other student. The slides that I will be showing you will be explaining that in more detail. But how should a candidate start to prepare? Let's start by watching an official Cambridge video, all right? Just listen, observe it, and listen to it, and then after we finish watching it, we can make some comments.
Good morning.
Hi.
My name is Bridget Harrison, and this is my colleague Mary Whiteside. And your names are?
Raphael.
Raphael?
Maud.
Maud. Can I have your mark sheets, please? Thank you. First of all, we'd like to know something about you. Raphael, where are you from?
I'm from Lucerne. It's a city in Switzerland, and it's in the German part.
And what do you do there?
I'm still at school and have 2 years to go.
Maud, how long have you been studying English?
Well, I think I've been studying English for
What do people benefit from being together?
very often. I'm at school, in class, I used to talk with some people, you learn things, playing music, you learn about each other, so you're the best.
Now, Maud, your pictures, they show students in different activities, and say how students base activities.
About in knowledge and people to be, well, in the entertainment field, it will be very useful for her to be able to talk to people.
Thank you. Raphael.
I think this one would, I think it's a 10 or something, because it helps for the teamwork, and I think that's the most important thing for the future life, because when they're like in the office or just at the job, they have to be prepared to work in a team and ask others about their opinion and work together with them.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll stop now this presentation, this video, because the PowerPoint I'm gonna work with now talks about basically the first and second parts. I'll start talking about the next parts in the other classes. Okay, so let's proceed. So you saw a couple of students. They took the test. They did a good job, but they could have done a better job if they had followed some of the tips I'm gonna give you in the next slides. Well, in part one, you could see that's the nicest part and easiest part. The examiner asks you and the other candidate some very basic questions about you and about your life. At this moment, you shouldn't talk to the other candidate. In this section, you will be learning how to avoid some common mistakes and how you can get ready to avoid them. The examiner asks you a question, you answer when the other candidate's talking. Of course, you can't interrupt, you don't interrupt, or you don't ask questions. It's always important to remember that there is a crime. It means that you should never keep quiet during your moment of speaking throughout the speaking test. You watched the video with Raphael and Maud. Could you notice how much time Raphael spoke? Of course, we just saw the first and second part. In part one, he just spoke for 25 seconds, whereas in part two, he spoke for only 84 seconds. But if we had seen the whole movie, the whole video, we would have noticed that he spoke an amount of 4 minutes and 50 seconds only. So if we consider 15 minutes of a test, not considering the moment when the examiner and the other candidate speaks, of course, 4 minutes is quite a short time. So he didn't have the opportunity of showing how much vocabulary he knew and how much grammar he had learned. So the number one most important lesson to learn about speaking test is never leave dead air. You should speak. You should speak a lot. If you forget a word, as they say here, keep talking. If you realize you just made a big grammar mistake, keep talking. If no one is smiling at you and you think you are doing badly, keep talking. So keep talking whenever it's your moment, it's your turn to speak. Which questions should you expect? The of this. exam. Plus 1 or 2 is slightly more strong. How long have you been studying English? What do you enjoy most about learning? And like to spend your free time? These are some of the possible questions you're going to be asked. B, are you the kind of person who can do it once? Are you planning to do any courses in the near future? Do you use social networking sites a lot? Would you enjoy preparing food for a large number of people? Do you like to give yourself targets or goals? If you won the lottery, what would you do? So basically, in part 1, you will be asked similar questions to these ones. What about let's think about what kind of answer you should give. What is the right length of answer? Of course, if you were asked, do you like a job? If you just say yes, that's too short. Come on, this is a CAE speaking test. A for CAE, CAE, A means advanced. So you've got to speak much more. Let's say that you answer, yes, it is good. Having a job is good and my job is good. Okay. But that's kind of repetitive, don't you think? How about 3 sentences and use some C1 vocabulary? The right length will be this one. Do you like your job? Yes and no. I mean, it's a challenge and the work is varied, but sometimes the workload is overwhelming and my work-life balance suffers. This is a good length. The vocabulary is spot on. It's perfect. A longer answer might start to annoy everyone. Let the other candidate have time to answer questions. Being selfish is not a good strategy. So this is for part 1. This amount is enough. Let's turn now to part 2. In part 2 of the Cambridge English exam advanced speaking test, you were given a piece of paper with 3 photos on. The photos are almost always about people. You have to talk about 2 of the pictures on your own for a minute. Then the examiner will ask the other candidate a question about your pictures. You were asked to talk about 2 pictures, as I said before. You choose 2 pictures only and say nothing about the 3rd one. We candidates simply describe the pictures by saying, I can see a car, the car is red, there is a tree, but you aren't asked to describe the pictures. Strong candidates compare the pictures. That's explained more below. Don't waste the first 5 seconds by explaining which pictures you have chosen. Just start comparing the pictures. If you feel you have to make it clear, you can point to the pictures you have chosen. So, as we said, as we can understand, it's not a moment to describe the pictures, it's a moment to compare the 2 pictures. And by comparing, I mean, you've got to use the right language to be able to even speculate about what people are doing in both pictures. Once again, talking about dead air. Dead air is still a crime in part 2. It is a crime all over the test. You have 60 seconds, you have 1 minute to do this task. So use all of this amount. Use all of the 60 seconds. When your time is up, the examiner will stop you. Don't worry if he does so. It's more important to speak throughout the 60 seconds than just speak a little because you were afraid of his stopping you. The examiner tells you what to do, but the task is also printed on the page with the photos. Of course, you can refer to that page You can have a look at the questions printed to make sure you talk about both bullet points. While we were comparing the photos, try to look at the examiner and also look at the other candidate from time to time. It's awful to see that you are participating in a speaking exam, but you are not able to interact, even if the other people are not speaking to you. You've got to interact with them by looking at them from time to time. I know it's hard because you have to look at the pictures, but strong candidates don't talk to the photos. They talk about the photos to the people. When the examiner gives you the instructions for the task, he or she will always start. I'd like you to compare two of the pictures and say, comparing is the heart of the task. If you aren't comparing, you aren't scoring points, so don't describe, compare. Comparing means saying what's the same in your chosen pictures and what's different. There are many ways you can do that, but the easiest way is to use the magic CAE words, and they are the three magic words, both, whereas, and while. They are the words used for comparing pictures most often. Here we have an example in which you see two pictures that have been chosen by the candidate to be compared. And the candidate said, both pictures show men using phones, whereas in this picture the man is wearing a suit, in this picture the man is dressed in some kind of traditional costume. While the businessman is sending a text or checking his portfolio, the man in the fluffy hat is checking his voicemail. This is a quite better answer, comparison, but it could have been better. The candidate could have said some more things to compare both pictures. Let's see another example in the next slides. There are always lots and lots of possible comparisons. As we said before, he could have used indoors, outdoors, cheap, expensive, old, new, old, young, traditional, modern. Even if you have no imagination, you can practice finding similarities and differences before you get to the exam. So a suggestion I give you is do that by taking any two photos and find 5 similarities and 5 differences. In most of the CAE Speaking Exam Part 2 scenarios, the word might will be in the instructions. Say why the people might be checking the time. Say how safety might be important in this job. That's because the examiners want to know if you can use speculative language. And the useful speculative phrases include perhaps, it seems like, they might have, it could be that, etc. There are many other possibilities, and we can be talking about these language for speaking, speculation in our future lessons. Here is one example of a much better comparison. Look at these photos. Imagine the task is, say why the people might be wearing hats. And the candidate says, perhaps these men are retired and are spending the day feeding ducks by the lake. In contrast, the policeman has to wear a hat for his job. It could be he hates wearing the hat, whereas the old men have probably chosen to wear theirs. Maybe it's a sunny day and they want to protect their heads from the sun, while the policeman's helmet might protect him from attackers. So, in this example, there was a lot of speculative language, but also a lot of comparing language. See how easy it is? Let's put it all together. A student called Heidi tries with a real example from Cambridge. The examiner gives Heidi this page and says, "Here are your pictures, Heidi. They show students doing different activities. I'd like you to compare two of the pictures and say how students can benefit from doing these activities and how helpful the activities might be in preparing them for the future lives." Remember, you choose only two pictures, always be comparing and speculative. Here are the pictures. The candidate, you will be listening to the candidate comparing the two pictures she has chosen.
They're both young students, girls, and both in a traditional school setting. This picture shows a student on her own, whereas this student is in her whole class. She has the support of a teacher, but this student doesn't have that. She has to learn to study on her own, and that's not bad. I think she might be studying for a test or, oh, probably she's just doing her homework. Both are useful skills for her future. I'm sure she has a lot of tests and homework still ahead of her. While the first student is doing her homework for tomorrow, this one has already done her homework and now she's presenting it to the whole class. That's useful. She'll have to do presentations when she gets a job or give a speech when she gets married. What else? Well, it's beneficial for the second girl to practice this. But I think doing the research will have more benefit in the future because you have to...
Okay, so you've heard, you could see that she has made use of the whole amount of time, the 60 seconds. You could hear the examiner's voice saying thank you. And the way she talked about both pictures was very natural. You could hear that she didn't have any kind of dead end that time. She always felt her moment of speaking. Let's turn to the next part so that you can see and read the way she spoke.
They're both young students, girls, and both in a traditional school setting. This picture shows a student on her own, whereas this student is in her whole class. She has the support of a teacher, but this student doesn't have that. She has to learn to study on her own, and that's not bad. I think she might be studying for a test or, oh, probably she's just doing her homework. Both are useful skills for her future. I'm sure she has a lot of tests and homework still ahead of her. While the first student is doing her homework for tomorrow, this one has already done her homework and now she's presenting it to the whole class. That's useful. She'll have to get a job, make a speech when she gets married. What else? Well, beneficial for second if you...
Okay, nice. We can notice here two interesting things I'd like you to observe. And as I said before, her way of speaking was really natural. And while she's describing she's comparing she's comparing both pictures. You can feel that she thinks of what she wants to say. At this moment when she realizes something and she says, oh, is thinking of what to say, and she asks herself, what else? Okay, what else? And then she says, what else? Oh, well, it's beneficial for the second girl. You see, you have to always feel the empty moments. Okay, you've got to always say something. As I said in the beginning, keep talking, keep talking, keep talking till you have your time by the examiner. Well, guys, that's all for today. Thank you very much for your presence, for being here, participating in this CAE presentation lesson for the speaking parts 1 and 2. Hope to see you again and hope to see more colleagues here together with us in our next lesson. Bye-bye.